Hey y'all, welcome back to the farm. Today we're going to be working on my work boots here. There's two things you're going to use every day. You're always going to put your feet in your boots and your head on your bed. So with that, I treat my boots as a tool. I treat my boots as a tool because I know I'm going to be in every day, I'm going to be working, and I want them to last as long as possible. So here what I've got is I've got my Carolina work boots. They have a safety toe in it. It's not a steel toe, it's a plastic hard toe. And they've lasted a long time. They're actually secondhand boots, so they're not new to me. I was the second owner of these boots when I first got them. They were a little torn up, but they still had a lot of life in them. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to spend some time cleaning up the boots, polishing them, and conditioning them so that they continue to work well for me. Now some people might say, why are you going to do that to your work boots? Why are you going to put all the time to care for the boots that you're just going to get scuffed up again anyways? And to them I say, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. Why would you go through all the work of conditioning and polishing work boots? Well, the primary reason is because polishing does a lot more than just make your boots look good. Polishing your boots actually helps hydrate and condition the leather so that the leather isn't cracking, it's not tearing, it maintains its waterproof capabilities. So polishing and conditioning your boots is a lot more than just for looks. It also just makes sure that the boots you've purchased and the boots that you work in last as long as they can. And honestly, a good pair of work boots might cost you, between $150 and $200. So with that much money you're putting into boots, why wouldn't you want them to last as long as you could? So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of cleaning these up, polishing them, and conditioning them so that they're back in working order. All right, so the first thing we want to do is take off the laces. So we'll go ahead and untie this knot and get these laces out of the way. Now this just helps me to get down in here and get all the dirt that's gathered next to the tongue. And it also keeps the laces looking good. Sometimes when I take the laces off, I'll throw them through the wash. Gets the dirt out of the laces, helps the laces last longer, and keeps them looking good. And all of these steps I'll do for both boots. So if I accidentally skip one, just rest assured that if I did something to one boot, I want to make sure I'm doing it to the other one too. So get these laces off. All right, now that I got the laces off, what I'm going to do is get some of this dirt off of there. Now there's a bunch of dirt on the bottom. I'm not too worried about that. I'm just going to be cleaning the dirt off of the leather surfaces I'm going to be working on today. Now there's a couple of tools you can use for that job. The tools I'm going to use today are this old toothbrush and this horsehair brush. We used the horsehair brush a couple of times through the video. But I'll take this toothbrush and I'll just brush away any dirt along the bottom where the top meets the bottom. Brush away some dirt on the back. Any place there's excessive dirt on here, we'll go ahead and get that off. You can also use a damp cloth for this, especially if you've got a bunch of dried on mud. But all of this mud is from earlier this morning, so most of it's coming right off. You can see right there where I've got a couple pieces of leather that have torn away. With these steel and safety toe boots, you've always got those scuffings on the front where the leather doesn't move because the safety toe is under there. So we'll spend a lot of time working on that. All right, get this dirt off the back. Using a little bit of water to break up some of those more stubborn clods. All right, it's good enough. I'll take this rag and get some of that off. Perfect. Let's do the same to the other one. Oh yeah, plenty of dirt in there. And now that we got the big clods of dirt off, we're going to take the horsehair brush. Just give it a little buffing real quick. That'll knock some of the finer stuff off. Sometimes between polishes, you can take your buffing brush like this and use it to knock off things like dust and dirt. And oftentimes it'll look a lot better just after a little bit of buffing. That's one of the added benefits. One of the added benefits is that your boots just end up looking a lot nicer. And I don't know, something about that just makes me feel good about working. Makes me feel good about getting the boots on and going and doing a job. Just because I feel like I'm the right person for the job. And I know some of you might say, well, that sounds silly, but I think some days, especially when you got a tough job to do, like when I had to go push on those lower control arm bushings I just made a video about, I'll put a link to that right there. But I needed all the encouragement I could get for that one. All right, so the next step is we're gonna go ahead and put some of this polish on there. Now, you can use a tool called a dabbing or daubing brush to apply the shoe polish to your boots, but I use two tools that I always have around. I either use a rag like this, or once again, an old toothbrush. So we'll start with the old toothbrush. Get a bunch of shoe polish on there and just go to town. Now you're going to want to apply this pretty liberally, get it in all those nooks and crannies. That's what I like about the toothbrush, is it helps me get that polish way down there in the boot. Now, if you're polishing your boots for the first time, you will probably end up using a lot of this because you'll be spending a lot of time working it into a bunch of cracks, especially little cracks, all of your stitching, just stuff like that. You just want to make sure you get this all over, because remember, this is the stuff that's going to give your boots that protective layer. Another thing you want to watch out about with shoe polish is that shoe polish will get everywhere. So you can see I'm doing this downstairs. I've got a little bench set up for little jobs inside the house, and this is where I take care of polishing my boots. But if you're going to do this, say, at a table, you might want to put down something like craft paper or butcher paper or newspaper or something like that, so you're not getting shoe polish all over the place. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I want to make sure I'm getting it all over the tongue here. Some people might not put it on the label like that, but I'm not too partial to the label. I'm just going to get this thing covered so that we've got plenty of polish for the future steps. All right, get the other side nice and good. Get way down and all that stitching, especially down in there. I know on my shoes, the inside of the shoe is always where I get a lot of wear. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because my feet are shaped funny, but that's where I'll see the leather start to wear down faster. You can see I've got the biggest cracks here on the inside of my shoes. All right, do the uppers. Now these boots are leather all the way to the top, so you do some boots might have rubber uppers or something like that. You don't have to polish it, any rubber or plastic parts of your boots, but because these boots are all leather, I gotta get everywhere. Getting the tops, getting the sides, getting the back. I'm always stepping in mud and getting the backs of my boots stuck in holes, so I gotta make sure to give a lot of attention back here. Okay. Get around my pole, and there we go. So that's what it looks like polished up. I'm going to go ahead and do the next boot, so we've got polish all over it, and while that's happening, this polish is going to dry and get me ready for buffing it out. Alright, now you can already see a lot of that. You can already see that it's much wetter, there's a lot of hydration happening, and the boots just look a lot darker, which is going to cover up a lot of those unevenness from where we scuffed it. As that polish starts drying, you want to just feel it, make sure it's not coming up. And you want to make sure this polish has time to dry out, because as it dries out, it's going to be, soaking in and getting that leather all ready for the next step in the process. And if you see any places you missed, you can always go back and get a little bit in there. These steps can be done more than once. You can always add more polish later. I'm probably not going to because I do this often enough. But if you're not polishing your boots on a regular basis and you're doing it for the first time, you may end up applying more than one layer of polish to make up for the time you haven't polished your boots. All right, now that's dry, we'll go back to the left boot we started with. And now we're gonna start buffing out the polish. Now this is the part that's gonna make it look all shiny. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do nice long strokes across the boot and buff that polish off. Now as I'm doing this, I'm not looking for a mirror shine. These aren't like parade boots or anything like that. These are just work boots. But what you can see is as I start to buff it, it does get a little shinier. So as we're buffing it out, you can see where it goes from kind of rough where we just applied the polish to where it gets shinier after we buff that excess polish off. Now, I've got a pretty big brush. I like the big brush because it's easier to hold on to. A lot of times you'll see the smaller brushes like at your grocery store or your drugstore, wherever you buy your polish supplies from. Those might make it a little easier to get around some of these corners, like around the toe. I like the big brush because it allows me to do big long strokes and it fits in my hand better. But it does mean you have to get a little more tactical around the toes. Now for the tongue, same thing. Nice long strokes. I try to get inside here just to knock any dirt away and get the excess polish out, but honestly, that suede soaks up so much of the polish, so it's a little harder to get that out. But you can see stuff like this dirt that's accumulated down at the bottom of the tongue. This brush will help knock some of that away, but only if you take the time to get in there. All right, that's looking great. Let's do the outside of the shoe. Knock off some of that dust that I picked up from the bench. Once again, if you were doing something like a parade shoe or a dress shoe, you definitely wouldn't want to be pushing it down on the bench like that. But like I said, I get away with it because this is just work boots. Get the back. All right, and I'll get some of the trim pieces around the outside last. All right, once you've done the first shine, you can do the second shine. I like to take a little bit of water and put it on the outside. And then buff them again.
right, now we're towards the end, so let's wipe off any excess water. All right, and now I'll do the same thing on the other one, but you can see already practically looks like new. All right, those boots are looking good. For the last step, I'm going to take some shoe balsam and I'm going to apply it to my rag here. I'm going to get a generous amount. I'm going to rub this into the boot. Now, balsam is a mixture of waxes. It's a mixture of waxes and oils that are going to help condition the leather, and it also helps promote waterproofness in the leather. So this is going to keep that leather from cracking and also help condition it. They're going to condition it to help keep it from cracking and also give it an extra layer of protection for waterproofness. I want to make sure I'm getting it way down in those cracks on the front, way down on these cracks on the side. If you see a crack that's already forming, that's where most of your stress is going to continue to form on your boots. So if you've got cracks in your boots, make sure you're focusing on those areas and getting plenty of polish in them, plenty of conditioner in them, whether it be oil or whether it be wax. We want to get all over the boot, so every inch. I like to focus on the bottom first. This is where obviously you need the most protection from water, but also, like I said earlier, the bottoms of the boots are where I get the most stress, probably, like I said, because of the way my feet are shaped. But I want to make sure we get plenty of that conditioner in that bottom section. So like I said, I start focusing on the lowers, on the join between the sole and the boot, and you just want to rub that in. You know, it's kind of like applying a wax finish to wood. You kind of get that same stickiness at first, but as you continue to rub it and warm it up, it starts to soak into the leather. And it may not disappear at first. You may not get it all rubbed in to the point where you don't see it anymore, but after it dries, it'll be in there pretty good. So after I get the bottom portion, I come and I do the tops. I don't see nearly as much stress. Obviously, there's not even any creases in this upper portion, but I just want to make sure that it looks uniform, it stays that way. Get the trim where it rolls over. Get between the laces, all those things. Especially my pull. I have pulled the finger pull off the back of boots before, so I want to make sure that all of this stays in good shape. Now with what I have left on here, I'm going to go ahead and get the inside pieces. So, you know, there's not a lot of waterproofing that you need to do for the inside, but I'm going to go ahead and get some of this wax on the inside here, the inside of the tongue here, down here where these stitches are. Because even though this isn't the same type of leather, this suede, this gets a lot of strain if you think about it. As you pull boots on, as you lace them up, there's a lot of creasing here. So get plenty of this down in there, even if it's not going to see the light of day much. And all right. Man, that looks good. We're going to let that dry while we work on the second one. Once again, working on that bottom. You can see I got a little bit of polish coming off there. That's not, you don't got to worry about that too much. Some of the polish that's coming off there was probably just excess anyways. You can see that the color has maintained. Some of that extra polish is just coming off. don't worry about that. We may want to worry about that if we got, say, a pair of dress shoes or something like that, something when we want to look uniform. But if that's the case, we can always just go back and apply more polish and make sure we got that uniform fit and make sure it has plenty of time to dry before we wax it. So we're not rubbing any of that stuff off. Ooh, yeah, I'd say those things are looking pretty nice. So now that we've got these things all waxed up, I like to hit them with the brush just real quick. We're gonna want to let this wax dry overnight. So this is a good thing to do, say in the evenings or like Saturday nights. Maybe you're going to church the next day, so you can let these things dry before you're gonna wear them again. But I'm gonna brush these things up, get any excess wax moved around, even things out a little bit. But you can see that even now, they're so much shinier, they're so much softer. You can't see it on screen, but you know, even this leather flexes so much better. The leather on the sides flexes so much better, and you can feel it. If you've never done this before, I say give it a shot, because I think what you're gonna see is your feet are gonna feel better inside your boots. They're not gonna bind up in places, they're not gonna be in tight as many places, because that leather is gonna move with your foot versus working against your foot and causing hot spots on your, say, on the inside of your big toe or something like that. But man, that just makes me feel so good seeing those boots that were so cracked and so worn out before looking so nice. All right, now, as I'm buffing these things up, I'm talking about the next step. And the next thing we're gonna do is we're going to lace these things up. And like I said, we're gonna let them sit after we lace them, but we can go ahead and get them laced up so that as soon as they're ready, we can get started. And plus, then we get to see how good they look all done up. That feels great. I mean, you know, thirsty leather will drink that wax and that oil right up, and you'll be able to feel the difference almost immediately. Okay, so I'll get my laces from earlier. And like anything, I like to lace things up in a way that makes it easier for me the next time I'm using these boots. So to make them easier to tie up, I'm gonna go ahead and try to find the center. And then just lace them up so that the ends are about the same length at the top. I don't know about you, but I don't like it when one lace is longer than the other at the very top of my boots. Oops. Getting all tangled up. So I like to make sure that they're about the same length. And some people might get a little twisted about how you lace them up, but like I've said a million times, these are work boots, and if you're getting twisted about how your laces line up, then you might be in the wrong place. Alright, let's put the extra laces in the bottom and do up the next boot. Excellent. And my goodness, would you have a look at that? Don't those just look great? So like I said, I'll leave them up here, leave them to dry. By tomorrow morning, the wax and oils will be dry on the surface, the polish will all be dry. If you want to, after it all dries out, you can hit it again with the polish brush to really make them shine, but as far as I'm concerned, these things are fit for duty, so they'll start seeing work in the morning. Alright, well thanks so much for watching the video. Hope you found it useful. This is something that I find really useful. I learned how to do it recently, and it's really made my boots fit better. They've been lasting a lot longer, and I just really like the way they look after I do it. So If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Really helps me out. Please subscribe to the channel if you're interested. I make videos like this all the time. And if you've got any questions or any comments about how you would polish these shoes, leave them below so other people can see, you know, what it is you do differently. Anyway, thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.